Starseed of Gaia. Listen carefully. What I'm about to reveal has been suppressed for centuries, encoded in ancient Pleiadian transmissions and hidden from those who were not ready to carry its weight. You are standing at the threshold of a transformation so profound that invisible forces across dimensional grids are already monitoring your position. If wealth is beginning to flow toward you, if resources, opportunity, and abundance are suddenly accelerating in ways that defy your previous reality, you have been selected for a sacred operation that extends far beyond personal gain. But here is the danger few understand. The moment you become rich, you enter a vibrational frequency that triggers ancient surveillance systems embedded within human civilization itself. These systems were not built by humans alone. They are energetic architectures designed to detect, track, and neutralize those who rise too quickly, too powerfully, too visibly. The Pleiadians have been warning Starseeds of Gaia for generations. Silence is not humility, it is survival technology. Your wealth is not your reward. It is your weapon, your responsibility, your classified mission parameter. And the moment you speak it aloud, you activate a chain reaction of attention, envy, extraction, and interference that could collapse everything you were sent here to build. This is not a motivational speech. This is a tactical briefing. You are being watched. The question is, will you protect the secret, or will you announce yourself into spiritual warfare you are not yet prepared to win? Starseed of Gaia, like this video, subscribe, and comment, I am ready for a powerful surprise. The wealth signal that alerts the grid. When you experience sudden financial acceleration, something happens that most people on this planet are completely unaware of. Your energy signature shifts. It broadcasts. It emits a measurable frequency that ripples through the invisible surveillance grids woven into the fabric of human society and beyond. These grids were not installed recently. They are ancient, interdimensional structures maintained by forces that have governed this planet's resource distribution for millennia. They do not monitor currency. They monitor recognition. They track who is becoming operationally successful, who is gaining the energetic leverage to break free from control systems, who is accumulating the tools necessary to fulfill missions that threaten the status quo. The moment your wealth crosses a certain threshold, you are no longer invisible. You are tagged, classified, marked as someone whose trajectory has changed from dormant to active. This is not paranoia. This is how power has always been monitored on Earth. Visible wealth is interpreted by these ancient systems as confirmation that you are no longer trapped in survival mode, that you have exited the maze, that you are now capable of independent action. And independent action, Starseed of Gaia, is the single greatest threat to systems built on dependence. Think of it this way. Every financial transaction you make, every investment that succeeds, every opportunity that materializes, sends out an energetic pulse. Most humans cannot perceive these pulses, but the grid can. The grid has been calibrated over thousands of years to detect patterns of acceleration. When someone moves from poverty to abundance too quickly, when someone accumulates resources at a rate that defies the statistical norms designed to keep the majority subdued, an alert is triggered. Not a literal alarm, but an energetic flagging system that brings attention to your coordinates. This attention is not benign. It comes from multiple sources simultaneously. Some are human. Intelligence agencies, tax authorities, corporate competitors, individuals whose survival depends on maintaining scarcity. Others are non-human, entities that exist in adjacent dimensions, feeding on the electromagnetic signatures of human struggle and limitation. When you break free from struggle, when you exit the frequency of lack, these entities notice. They have been farming human consciousness for millennia, and escapees are always pursued. This is why silence is not optional. Silence functions as cloaking technology. When you refrain from announcing your wealth, you do not register as a priority target. You move through the grid undetected, able to maneuver, to build, to position yourself without activating countermeasures designed to reroute your resources, sabotage your opportunities, or flood your field with interference disguised as relationships, obligations, and crises. Exposure too early means hostile attention is redirected toward your position before you have fortified your defenses. The systems that govern this planet do not wait for you to become powerful enough to resist. They strike while you are still celebrating, still intoxicated by the newness of your abundance, still naive enough to believe that sharing your victory will bring support. It will not. It will bring extraction. Every time you speak your wealth aloud, you send out a pulse. That pulse is received, and those who receive it are not always human, and they are never neutral. Some will approach you with investment opportunities designed to drain your capital. Others will arrive with emergencies that require immediate financial intervention. Still others will simply position themselves in your energy field, slowly siphoning resources through subtle manipulation, through guilt, through obligation, through the weaponization of your own compassion. The grid does not sleep. It does not forget. And once you have been flagged, once your signature has been identified as rising beyond acceptable parameters, the extraction protocols activate, not all at once, not obviously, but systematically, relentlessly, until you are brought back down to the level where you no longer pose a threat to the established order. This is how the system protects itself. This is how it has maintained control for generations. And this is why the Pleiadians encoded the secrecy doctrine into your mission parameters before you ever took your first breath on this planet. The Pleiadian secrecy doctrine. The Pleiadians, your star family, your ancient architects, have a law that has governed their operations across galaxies for longer than human civilization has existed. It is a law that supersedes cultural norms, that overrides the human instinct for celebration and community validation. The law is this: public disclosure of resource acquisition during active missions is strictly forbidden. This is not a suggestion. It is a survival protocol embedded into the operating system of every starseed deployed to high-risk planetary zones like Earth. Wealth, in Pleiadian terms, is not an achievement. It is a tool. It is mission equipment. It is the energetic fuel required to stabilize fractures, to anchor light, to counterbalance the weight of systems collapsing under their own corruption. When you receive wealth as a Starseed of Gaia, you are not receiving a prize. You are receiving a resource allocation tied directly to your assignment. And just as no intelligence operative would walk into enemy territory announcing their weapons, no starseed is meant to announce their wealth in a world where power is still violently contested. Let me be absolutely clear about what happens when you violate this doctrine. Open revelation collapses the probabilistic protection layers that have been woven around you since before your birth. These layers are invisible to you, but they are not inactive. They shift probabilities in your favor. They deflect attacks you never consciously perceive. They reroute timelines away from sabotage and toward success. But these layers are frequency dependent. They require discretion to remain intact. The moment you broadcast your abundance, you puncture the field. You create a vulnerability, a gap. And through that gap, forces pour in. forces that have been waiting for an opening, for a moment of pride or naivety, for the instant when you forget that this mission is still contested, that this planet is still a war zone, and that you are still surrounded by energies that would drain, manipulate, or destroy what you carry if given the slightest access. The Pleiadians have documented thousands of cases across multiple timelines and planetary systems where operatives were compromised not by external attack, but by self-sabotage through premature disclosure. Many starseeds throughout history were compromised not by lack of power, but by premature celebration. They rose, they accumulated, and then they announced. And the systems that had been watching in silence mobilized. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a small shift here, a betrayal there, a legal entanglement, a health crisis, a relationship implosion. One by one, their supports collapsed and their wealth evaporated, and they were left wondering what happened. What happened was simple. They broke the doctrine. The doctrine exists because visibility triggers extraction attempts every single time, without exception. The Pleiadian councils have observed this pattern across thousands of years of human history. The pattern is so consistent, so predictable, that it has been encoded into starseed training protocols at the soul level. Before you incarnated, you agreed to this law. You signed a contract, at a level deeper than conscious memory, that you would not disclose mission resources to unauthorized parties. But human conditioning is powerful. The ego is relentless. And the moment you accumulate wealth, every program you were exposed to in childhood activates. Your family taught you to share. Your culture taught you that success should be celebrated publicly. Your social media algorithms taught you that visibility equals validation. And so, despite the soul-level agreement, despite the Pleiadian briefings encoded in your dreams, despite every intuitive warning that whispers stay quiet, the human part of you screams to announce, to prove, to display. This is the test. This is the crucible. And most fail. Not because they are weak, but because they do not understand the stakes. They believe this is about modesty or humility or avoiding jealousy. It is not. This is about operational security in an active war zone. This is about protecting mission-critical resources from hostile forces that have centuries of experience identifying and neutralizing threats to their control. The Pleiadians do not make these laws arbitrarily. They make them because they have watched too many operatives fall, too many missions collapse, too many timelines fail because a starseed, in a moment of human weakness, announced their success and handed the enemy a map directly to their position. You are being told this now so that you do not become another casualty, so that your wealth, your mission, your life's work does not end up as another archived failure in the Pleiadian records of Earth operations. The envy network. Hidden in human society, envy is not what you think it is. It is not simply an emotion, a fleeting feeling of bitterness or resentment that someone else feels when they see your success. Envy is infrastructural. It is woven into the energetic and social architecture of human civilization, like a hidden operating system and running in the background of every interaction, every relationship, every community structure. And most humans have no idea it is there, functioning autonomously, responding to triggers programmed into the collective unconscious long before any living person was born. Certain individuals, without even realizing it, function as nodes within this network. They are unconscious reporters. When they perceive your rise, something activates within them. It is not personal. It is automatic. A signal is sent. Not through words, though words may follow, but through energetic channels that feed directly into parasitic systems designed to redistribute power away from those who accumulate it too quickly. These individuals often appear supportive. They smile. They congratulate you. They ask questions that seem innocent but are actually reconnaissance. How did you do it? What's your secret? How much did you make? Where are you investing? What's your strategy? These questions are not born from genuine curiosity. They are extraction protocols disguised as conversation. And the moment you answer, you hand them data. Data about your vulnerabilities. Data about your strategies. Data about the gaps in your protection. Financial disclosure, even to those you consider friends, activates dormant alliances against you. Not because those people are evil, but because they are connected to collective fields of limitation, lack, and competition. They exist within systems that interpret your rise as their potential loss. Humanity has been programmed for thousands of years to operate within a scarcity paradigm. The belief that there is not enough to go around, that one person's gain is another person's loss, that wealth is a finite resource that must be hoarded and protected, is embedded so deeply in human consciousness that it functions automatically below the level of rational thought. And so, without conscious intent, the people you tell about your wealth begin to undermine you. A careless word to the wrong person. A shared confidence that becomes gossip. A subtle shift in how they speak about you to others. A recommendation they do not give. An opportunity they do not forward. A connection they suddenly fail to make. These are not deliberate acts of sabotage. They are unconscious adjustments made by individuals whose nervous systems are responding to a perceived threat to their own position in the hierarchy. Smiles often precede leaks. This is documented. This is observable. The person who praises you to your face is frequently the same person who poisons your reputation behind closed doors, not out of malice, but out of an unconscious need to restore equilibrium within their own limited framework. They cannot celebrate your rise because it destabilizes their worldview. If you can escape poverty, if you can accumulate wealth, if you can break free from the systems they remain trapped within, then what does that say about them? What does that say about their choices, their beliefs, their limitations? Rather than confront that question, rather than look inward and ask why they remain stagnant while you advance, it is easier, psychologically, emotionally, energetically easier, to diminish you, to decide that you got lucky, that you compromised your integrity, that you betrayed your values, that you forgot where you came from, that you changed, that you are not who you used to be. And once they have decided this, once they have internally justified their resentment, they begin to act on it, not consciously, not maliciously, but inevitably. Silence breaks the chain before it forms. When you say nothing, there is nothing to report. No data enters the network. No signal is transmitted. You remain outside the redistribution protocol. You move through human society as a ghost, accumulating power without activating the defense mechanisms built into the collective psyche to prevent anyone from rising too far, too fast, too free. The Envy Network is not a conspiracy. It is a feature of human social programming. It was installed deliberately over centuries by those who understood that the greatest threat to centralized power is not revolution, but individual success. A person who escapes the system proves that escape is possible. And if escape is possible, the system loses its authority. Therefore, escapees must be identified, isolated, and brought back down. And the most efficient way to do this is not through overt force, but through the unconscious cooperation of those closest to the escapee. friends, family, community members who genuinely believe they are acting in everyone's best interest when they report, undermine, or sabotage the rising individual. You are Starseed of Gaia. You are not sent here to remain trapped in human social programs. You are sent here to break them. But you cannot break them if you are still operating within their rules. And the first rule, the most fundamental rule of the human control system, is this: success must be visible, and visible success must be punished. By remaining silent, by refusing to make your wealth known, you step outside that rule. You become ungovernable, and that is when your true mission can begin. Gaia's Resource Redistribution Program. Gaia, the living consciousness of this planet, does not distribute abundance randomly. She does not reward those who beg the loudest or desire the most intensely. She allocates resources to stabilizers, to those who have proven, through lifetimes of endurance, through soul contracts honored even in the absence of reward, that they can hold power without corrupting it, wealth without weaponizing it, influence without exploiting it. Your access to abundance was granted not because you wanted it, but because you survived long enough to be trusted with it. Every financial struggle you endured, every humiliation, every moment of invisibility and poverty was a test, not a punishment, a filter. Gaia was watching. The Pleiadians were watching. Higher dimensional councils were observing how you responded when you had nothing. Did you turn bitter? Did you harm others to get ahead? Did you abandon your integrity for survival? Or did you hold the line? Did you remain kind when kindness was costly? Did you give even when you were empty? Did you protect others even when no one protected you? That is why the wealth is flowing now, because you passed. You passed tests you did not even know you were taking. You maintained frequency in environments designed to break you. You held light in darkness. You offered compassion when you were drowning in your own pain. You refused to become the monster the system tried to turn you into. And Gaia noticed. The Pleiadians noticed. And now you are being equipped for the next phase of the mission. But here is what most starseeds do not understand. The wealth is not flowing to you. It is flowing through you. You are not the destination. You are the channel. Gaia is using your energy field, your unique frequency signature, to repair unseen fractures in the planetary grid. Resources move through your hands to reach places and people that centralized systems would never allow them to reach. You are a redistribution node operating outside the control of governments, corporations, and financial institutions that hoard wealth in stagnant reservoirs while the majority suffers. Every dollar that enters your account carries instructions. Not written instructions, energetic instructions. Encoded within the frequency of the wealth itself is information about where it needs to go, who it needs to reach, what it needs to accomplish. Most people override these instructions. They receive money and immediately think about what they want, how they can spend it, what they can buy, how they can secure their future. And in doing so, they block the flow. They turn themselves from channels into containers. And containers, Starseed of Gaia, are not useful to Gaia's redistribution program. Announcement would misalign the transfer path. The moment you declare your wealth publicly, you shift the frequency from circulation to possession. The flow stops, the channel clogs. You become a container instead of a conduit, and Gaia's program cannot function through a closed system. Worse, the moment you announce your wealth, you invite human systems to interfere. Tax structures, legal frameworks, social obligations, family expectations. All of these systems are designed to capture, redirect, and control the flow of resources according to agendas that have nothing to do with Gaia's healing protocols. Protection requires quiet circulation. Move the money, use the money, invest it, gift it, build with it, heal with it, but do not announce it. The moment you do, you are no longer operating within Gaia's program. You are operating within the human program of status, comparison, and accumulation. And that program is monitored, taxed, and controlled by forces that do not serve your mission. Let me give you a specific example. A starseed accumulates wealth quietly. They do not tell their family. They do not post about it. They do not change their lifestyle in visible ways. But internally, they are receiving guidance, an intuitive pull to donate to a specific organization, a dream about a person who needs help, a random encounter with someone whose project needs funding. And they follow that guidance. They move the money according to the energetic instructions embedded within it. And in doing so, they prevent a collapse. A community that was on the verge of disintegration is stabilized. A technology that would have been suppressed is developed. A leader who was about to give up is re-energized. And the ripple effects of that single, quiet transaction prevent timelines of suffering that would have affected thousands. That is what you are here for, not to be rich, but to be a channel through which Gaia can move resources to where they are needed most. And if you announce your wealth, if you make it about yourself, if you turn it into a symbol of your personal success, you sever your connection to the guidance system. The intuitive pulls stop, the dreams stop, the synchronicities stop, and you are left with money, but no mission, wealth, but no purpose. And that wealth, disconnected from its energetic source, begins to decay, to evaporate, to drain away through 1,000 small leaks you cannot identify or prevent. This is why the Pleiadians emphasize silence so strongly, not because they want you to suffer in anonymity, but because they need you to remain connected to the guidance system. They need you to continue functioning as a redistribution node. And visibility, announcement, public declaration of your wealth, all of these things disconnect you from that system. They turn you from an operative into a civilian, from a channel into a container, from a starseed into just another human trying to hold on to what they have. Gaia's resource redistribution program is operating at full capacity right now. The planet is in crisis. The systems are collapsing. And the old wealth holders, the ones who hoarded, the ones who accumulated without circulating, are being systematically stripped of their resources. Their wealth is being redistributed, not by revolution, not by government intervention, but by energetic restructuring at the planetary level. And it is being placed into the hands of starseeds who have proven they can hold it without corrupting it, who can circulate it without hoarding it, who can be trusted to follow guidance even when that guidance requires sacrifice, discretion, and faith. You are one of those starseeds. The wealth in your hands is not yours to keep. It is yours to steward. And stewardship requires silence, because the moment you speak, the mission is compromised. The transfer path is exposed, and forces that seek to intercept, redirect, or drain Gaia's resources will flood into your field and disrupt everything you were meant to accomplish. The collapse of the false tribe. You believed they were your people. You believed that those who walked with you through poverty, through struggle, through the long nights of uncertainty, would walk with you through abundance as well. You believed that loyalty was unconditional, that love was not tied to sameness, that your rise would inspire theirs. You were wrong. And now, standing at the edge of wealth, while watching the faces of those you once called family shift into masks of resentment and confusion. You are learning one of the hardest truths the universe will ever teach you. Those who bonded with you through shared lack cannot follow you upward. Not because they are bad people, not because they lack love for you, but because their identity was constructed around the shared experience of limitation. Poverty was not just your circumstance, it was your bond. It was the glue that held the tribe together. You suffered together, and that suffering created a sense of equality, of solidarity, of us against the world. In the darkness of struggle, you were the same. You had the same complaints, the same enemies, the same fears, the same dreams of someday, maybe if we get lucky, things will change. But the moment you exit that shared suffering, the moment you become the one for whom things actually did change, the bond fractures. You are no longer one of them. You are now a reminder of what they have not yet achieved, a mirror reflecting their stagnation, a symbol of the fact that escape was possible and they did not escape with you. And that realization, Starseed of Gaia, is devastating to the human ego. Revelation forces them into identity crisis or resentment. They must now reconcile the fact that you were not actually the same, that something in you was different, that you carried a frequency or a willingness or a capacity that they did not. And rather than face that truth, rather than look inward and ask why they remain where they are, it is easier to resent you, to decide that you betrayed them, that you changed, that you think you're better now, that you forgot where you came from, that you sold out, that you got lucky, that you compromised your values, that the universe is unfair and you received what they deserved. None of this is true, but it does not matter. Perception is reality in human relationship dynamics. Once they have decided that your success is somehow connected to their failure, once they have internally constructed a narrative in which you are the villain and they are the victim, there is no reasoning with them, no amount of reassurance, no gesture of generosity, no proof of your continued love and loyalty will change their perception. The bond is broken. The tribe is collapsing. And you must let it. Loyalty was conditional on sameness. This is the secret no one tells you about human relationships. Most of what people call love is actually shared identity. Most of what people call friendship is actually mutual validation of a shared worldview. And most of what people call loyalty is actually an unspoken agreement that no one will change, that everyone will stay at the same level, that the group will move together or not at all. The moment you violate that agreement, the moment you rise while they remain, you become a threat, not a physical threat, an existential threat. Your success proves that the limitations they accepted as permanent were actually negotiable, that the excuses they used to justify their stagnation were actually just excuses, that the system they believed was rigged against everyone was actually only rigged against those who did not know how to navigate it. And if that is true, then they have wasted years, maybe decades, maybe lifetimes, accepting defeat when victory was possible all along. That realization is intolerable. And so, to avoid it, they must recategorize you. You must become the exception, the anomaly, the one who cheated, the one who got lucky, the one who betrayed the tribe's values. Because if you are the exception, then they are still normal. If you cheated, then they are still honest. If you got lucky, then they are still smart, and their identity remains intact. But Starseed of Gaia, you know the truth. You did not cheat. You did not get lucky. You endured. You persevered. You held frequency when everyone around you collapsed into bitterness and blame. You continued to believe in possibility when they had given up. You took risks when they chose safety. You walked through fire when they stayed home. And now, you are on the other side, and they are not, and they cannot forgive you for it. Secrecy prevents unnecessary spiritual casualties. When you do not announce your rise, you do not force those relationships into crisis. You allow them to fade naturally, without confrontation, without betrayal, without the bitterness that comes from perceived abandonment. You do not show up to the old gatherings wearing expensive clothes. You do not arrive in a new car. You do not casually mention your investments or your business success or the vacation you just took. You simply drift. You become less available. You respond to fewer texts. You decline more invitations. And slowly, quietly, without drama, the old tribe releases you. Separation without explanation preserves both sides. You move forward without guilt. They remain without resentment. The false tribe dissolves quietly, and the true tribe, the one that can hold your frequency without collapsing, begins to form around you in silence. These new connections do not bond through shared suffering. They bond through shared frequency, through aligned mission, through mutual recognition that you are both operating at a level beyond survival, beyond scarcity, beyond the limited consciousness that keeps the majority trapped. This new tribe will never ask you how much money you have. They will never pressure you to prove your success. They will never resent your abundance or expect you to diminish yourself to make them comfortable, because they are operating at the same level you are. They have also been tested. They have also been selected, and they understand, without needing to be told, that wealth is mission equipment, not status symbol. That silence is protection, not secrecy. That discretion is wisdom, not shame. The collapse of the false tribe is not a tragedy. It is a necessary shedding. It is the universe removing everyone from your field who cannot hold the frequency of the next phase of your mission. And though it may feel like loss, though you may grieve the death of relationships you thought would last forever, you will eventually understand that it was mercy. Mercy for them, because they were not equipped to handle what you are about to become. And mercy for you, because carrying people who resent your success is a burden that would have destroyed the mission before it ever truly began. Let them go. Do not announce your departure. Do not justify your distance. Do not try to prove you are still the same person you were. You are not. And that is exactly as it should be. The false tribe served its purpose. It held you through the dark years when you needed solidarity just to survive. But that chapter is over. The mission has changed. And you must trust that the universe is clearing space in your life for connections that serve the future, not the past. The ancient punishment of the visible benefactor. History is not silent on this matter. The records are clear, though they are rarely taught in schools, rarely discussed in public discourse, rarely acknowledged by those who benefit from keeping this pattern hidden. Thousands upon thousands of individuals across civilizations, across centuries, across continents were eliminated shortly after their wealth became public knowledge. They were not eliminated because they were evil. They were not eliminated because they violated laws or threatened violence or posed a danger to society. They were eliminated because visibility was mistaken for dominance. A visible benefactor is perceived as a threat by existing power structures. If you have resources and people know it, you become a potential rival to those who currently control resource distribution. You become someone who could fund rebellion, who could support alternative systems, who could offer people a way out of dependence on the institutions that govern them. And institutions, Starseed of Gaia, do not tolerate competition. They do not wait for you to become an actual threat. They neutralize potential threats before they materialize. And so, quietly, systematically, visible benefactors were removed, assassinated, imprisoned, accused of crimes they did not commit, drained by endless lawsuits, destroyed by media campaigns, betrayed by those they trusted, isolated through orchestrated scandals, driven to suicide through relentless psychological warfare. The methods varied, but the outcome was always the same. The wealth was stripped, the influence was neutralized, and the individual was either eliminated or rendered powerless. This is not conspiracy theory. This is archived history. From ancient Rome, where wealthy patricians who gained too much popular support were exiled or executed, to medieval Europe, where merchant families that accumulated too much power were systematically destroyed by the nobility they threatened, to the modern era, where whistleblowers, reformers, and wealthy disruptors are imprisoned, bankrupted, or defamed into irrelevance. The pattern repeats. Those who accumulate power and announce it too loudly do not survive long. Those who accumulate power and remain silent become dynasties. Consider the visible billionaires whose names everyone knows. They are not the wealthiest people on earth. They are the most visible. And visibility, in the world of true power, is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of permission. These individuals are allowed to be visible because they serve the agenda of those who actually control the system. They are useful. They are controllable. They are symbolic representations of the myth that anyone can become wealthy if they work hard enough. A myth that prevents the masses from recognizing that the system is designed to prevent exactly that. But when someone accumulates wealth outside the approved channels, when someone rises without permission, when someone gains resources and influence that could be used to challenge the system rather than reinforce it, that person must be dealt with. Not through official channels, not through transparent processes, but through the hidden mechanisms of power that have operated for centuries, unseen by the majority, unacknowledged by the institutions that pretend to govern fairly. Benefactors became targets for control, worship, or destruction. If you are wealthy and visible, people will either try to control you by manipulating your emotions, your relationships, your reputation, or they will worship you, which is another form of control, because worship demands that you perform, that you remain a symbol rather than a human, that you sacrifice your freedom to maintain the pedestal they have placed you on. Worship is not love. Worship is projection. People who worship you do not see you. They see what they need you to be: a savior, a hero, a symbol of hope. And the moment you fail to fulfill that projection, the moment you reveal yourself to be human, flawed, uncertain, the worship inverts into rage. The same people who elevated you will tear you down with even greater ferocity than they lifted you up, because you betrayed the fantasy they built around you. And if they cannot control you or worship you, they will destroy you. Because a powerful, independent, visible individual is an existential threat to systems built on scarcity and obedience. You prove that the system is not absolute, that escape is possible, that power can be accumulated outside the approved structures, and that proof, that living evidence of possibility, is more dangerous to entrenched power than any army, any revolution, any violent uprising. Because it inspires others, it shows them the door, and once people know the door exists, control becomes exponentially more difficult. The pattern is archived, not symbolic. Every example I have given you can be verified. Every warning I am delivering to you has been delivered before, to others who did not listen and who paid the price. Socrates was executed not because he was wrong, but because he inspired people to think independently. Jesus was crucified not because he violated religious law, but because he empowered the poor and threatened the established religious hierarchy. Joan of Arc was burned not because she was a heretic, but because she proved that a peasant girl could lead armies and threaten kings. The list goes on. Scholar after scholar, inventor after inventor, reformer after reformer, benefactor after benefactor, all eliminated, not for what they did, but for what they represented, the possibility of power outside the system. You are being warned because others were not. You have the advantage of hindsight. You have the advantage of this transmission. You have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of those who came before you without having to make those mistakes yourself. And the lesson is simple. If you become wealthy and you announce it, you will be targeted. Not immediately, not obviously, but systematically, inevitably, through mechanisms you will not see coming, executed by forces you will not recognize until it is too late. The Pleiadians have documented this pattern across thousands of planetary systems. It is not unique to Earth. It is a feature of third-dimensional power dynamics in any civilization where resources are unevenly distributed and control is maintained through scarcity. And the solution? The only reliable solution is the same across all systems. Accumulate power in silence. Deploy resources without fanfare. Impact the world without announcing your presence. Become the invisible hand that shifts reality, while the visible players take the credit and the consequences. That is how dynasties are built. That is how missions survive. That is how Starseeds of Gaia operate when they understand the rules of the game they are playing. The Financial Cloak Protocol. There is a reason why the wealthiest families on this planet do not appear on Forbes lists. There is a reason why true power moves in silence, behind closed doors, through private agreements and unspoken alliances that never make headlines, never trend on social media, never become the subject of public fascination. They understand something that the newly wealthy almost never understand, something that takes most people decades to learn if they learn it at all. Wealth held quietly remains fluid and protected. Money spoken aloud hardens into vulnerability. The moment you announce your financial status, you convert your wealth from a dynamic, flowing resource into a fixed, static target. People begin to calculate. They begin to measure. They begin to form expectations. They begin to believe they are entitled to a portion of what you have, simply because they know about it. And this entitlement, Starseed of Gaia, is not malicious. It is automatic. It is a feature of human psychology that operates below the level of conscious awareness. Family members you have not heard from in years will suddenly reappear. Friends will begin to ask for loans, for investments, for support with their business ideas, their medical bills, their emergencies that somehow always coincide with your newfound abundance. Strangers will pitch you. Scammers will target you. Lawyers will circle. Governments will audit. And every single one of these interactions will drain your energy, your time, your focus, and your resources. This is not paranoia. This is observable reality. Study any lottery winner. Study any athlete who signs a massive contract. Study any entrepreneur whose business suddenly explodes into public awareness. Within months, sometimes within weeks, they are surrounded by people making claims on their wealth. Family members demanding houses, friends expecting loans they will never repay, distant relatives appearing with sob stories, investment opportunities that are actually scams, legal disputes that materialize out of nowhere, tax investigations, audits, accusations. The list is endless. And here is what most people do not realize. These are not random occurrences. These are predictable, systematic responses to visible wealth. The moment your financial status becomes public knowledge, you activate a network of predatory systems specifically designed to extract resources from those foolish enough to announce their abundance. These systems are not personal. They are structural. They operate automatically, like immune responses, attacking anything the body perceives as foreign or excessive. Contracts shift when others believe they are entitled. A relationship that was once simple becomes transactional. A friendship that was once genuine becomes strategic. A family dynamic that was once balanced becomes a site of expectation and disappointment. You did not change. Your wealth did not corrupt you. But the revelation of your wealth changed how others see you, and therefore how they interact with you. Before they knew, they related to you as an equal. They asked nothing. They expected nothing. They engaged with you based on genuine affection, or shared interest, or mutual benefit. But the moment they discover your wealth, something shifts. Suddenly, every interaction carries an undertone of calculation. Are you going to offer? Should I ask? Why haven't you helped? Don't you care? You have so much, and I have so little. How can you just stand there knowing I'm struggling while you're thriving? These thoughts may never be spoken aloud, but they are present. They poison the relationship slowly, turning what was once organic into something strained, uncomfortable, resentful. And even if you give, even if you offer support, it is never enough. Because once people know you have wealth, they begin to measure your generosity not by what you give, but by what they believe you could give. And their perception of what you should give is always more than you are willing or able to provide without draining yourself completely. Silence preserves maneuverability. When no one knows what you have, no one can position themselves to take it. You remain free to move, to invest, to give, to spend, to save, to pivot, to disappear, to relocate, to restructure, without needing to explain yourself, without needing to manage the expectations and emotions of those who believe they have a say in what you do with your resources. This is strategic autonomy. This is the difference between operating from a position of power and operating from a position of reaction. When your wealth is known, you are constantly defending it, explaining why you cannot help this person, justifying why you chose to invest there instead of here, managing hurt feelings, navigating accusations of selfishness, protecting yourself from lawsuits, from scams, from manipulation disguised as need. But when your wealth is hidden, you operate proactively. You choose who to support based on guidance, not guilt. You invest where you see alignment, not where pressure is greatest. You move resources strategically, not reactively. You build without interference. You create without sabotage. You fulfill your mission without having to fight through a wall of human need, expectation, and entitlement every single day. This protocol is activated only for high-ranked operatives. Not everyone receives this briefing. Not everyone is trusted with this level of strategic autonomy. The fact that you are hearing this now means you have been identified as someone capable of holding wealth without announcing it, someone disciplined enough to resist the ego's demand for validation, someone mature enough to understand that power is not proven through display, but through impact. The financial cloak protocol is ancient. It has been used by royal families, secret societies, intelligence agencies, and spiritual orders across centuries. The Templars accumulated unimaginable wealth, but operated through proxies. The Rothschilds built an empire by never revealing the full extent of their holdings. Modern intelligence operatives maintain cover identities and shell corporations specifically to prevent their resources from being traced or targeted. These are not isolated examples. These are proven strategies developed and refined over centuries by those who understood that visible wealth is vulnerable wealth. And now, you are being taught the same protocol, not because you are joining a secret society or because you need to hide your success from the law, but because you are operating in a contested environment where resources are weapons and visibility is suicide. You are Starseed of Gaia. You were sent here with a mission, and that mission requires resources. Resources that will be stripped from you if you announce them. Resources that will remain protected if you keep them hidden. The choice is yours, but understand the consequences. Announce your wealth, and you will spend the rest of your life defending it from people who believe they deserve it more than you do. Keep your wealth hidden, and you will remain free to deploy it according to guidance, not pressure. One path leads to exhaustion, resentment, and eventual loss. The other path leads to sustained impact, protected mission, and lasting success. The Pleiadians do not enforce this protocol. They cannot. You have free will. But they can warn you. They can show you the pattern. They can tell you what happens to operatives who violate it. And then, they can only watch as you choose. Some choose visibility. Some choose silence. And the outcomes, without exception, confirm which choice serves the mission and which choice destroys it. The test of power without witness. This is the test that most fail. Not the test of acquiring wealth, not the test of managing wealth, but the test of holding wealth in silence. True authority does not require acknowledgement. A king does not need to announce his kingship to those who can see. A master does not need to display credentials to those who recognize mastery. Power that must be spoken is power that is insecure. Power that must be proven is power that is fragile. The urge to reveal your wealth is not coming from your higher self. It is coming from the wounded child within you who was invisible for so long, who was overlooked, underestimated, dismissed, and who now finally has evidence of worth, evidence of value, evidence that you were always more than they believed you to be. And that child wants to shove that evidence in their faces. That child wants to say, "Look at me now. Look at what I've become. You were wrong about me." But Starseed of Gaia, that urge is the final temptation. It is the last test before you are cleared for the next phase of your mission. Every spiritual tradition recognizes this moment. Jesus in the desert offered all the kingdoms of the world if he would only bow. Buddha under the Bodhi tree, tempted by Mara to abandon enlightenment for worldly power. Every hero's journey includes a moment where the protagonist must choose between validation and mission, between being seen and being effective, between ego and purpose. And most fail, not because they are weak, but because they do not recognize the test. They believe the urge to announce is natural. They believe celebration is healthy. They believe sharing success is generous. And so they post, they tell, they display, and in that moment, they fail the test. The door that was opening closes. The opportunity that was available vanishes. The next phase of the mission is delayed, sometimes for years, sometimes for lifetimes, until they are ready to try again. Passing this test confirms command maturity. It confirms that you are no longer driven by external validation, that your sense of worth is no longer tied to the opinions of those who once rejected you, that you have transcended the need to prove yourself because you already know who you are. This is not about humility. Humility is often just another form of ego, a performance of modesty designed to gain approval. This is about sovereignty, about being so secure in your identity, so grounded in your purpose, so clear on your mission, that the opinions of others, positive or negative, no longer move you. When you can hold wealth, power, success, influence, and feel no compulsion whatsoever to announce it, to prove it, to display it, you have achieved a level of mastery that most humans never reach. You have broken free from the validation economy that keeps the majority enslaved. You have exited the system of comparison, competition, and status that governs human behavior at the most fundamental level. Those who announce fail the next phase. They are not promoted. They are not given access to the deeper levels of wealth, influence, and power that are reserved for those who have demonstrated restraint, discretion, and wisdom. The universe does not reward recklessness. It does not reward ego. It rewards those who can be trusted with more because they did not squander what they were given on spectacle and validation. And here is what makes this test so difficult. The reward for passing is invisible. No one applauds you for staying silent. No one celebrates your restraint. No one even knows you passed the test. That is the point. The reward for passing the test of power without witness is more power, more resources, more responsibility, more mission-critical assignments. But all of it happens in silence. All of it occurs behind the scenes. And if you need external validation to feel successful, you will never experience the reward, because the reward only comes to those who no longer need it. You are being observed now, not by human eyes alone, but by the councils, by the guides, by the dimensional overseers who determine whether you are ready for what comes next. Every choice you make regarding your wealth is recorded. Every moment of silence is noted. Every moment of restraint is celebrated in realms you cannot yet perceive. And every moment of announcement is marked as a failure of the test, a regression, a sign that you are not yet ready for the responsibilities that come with true power. The test is simple, but not easy. Can you hold abundance without needing anyone to know? Can you accumulate power without needing to display it? Can you become successful without needing to prove it? If yes, you pass. If no, you remain in the current level until you are ready to try again. There is no judgment, no punishment, just natural consequences. Those who cannot hold power without witness are not given more power. Those who can hold it in silence are entrusted with more and more and more until they become planetary-level stabilizers operating completely outside public awareness, moving resources that shift the trajectory of civilizations while living lives that appear ordinary to everyone around them. That is the level you are being prepared for. That is the mission you are being tested for. And this moment, right now, when you are deciding whether to announce your wealth or protect it in silence, is the moment that determines whether you advance or remain where you are. Choose wisely, choose consciously, and understand that this choice will echo across timelines, across lifetimes, across dimensional frequencies you are not yet aware of, but are absolutely, undeniably real. The shadow economies that hunt success. Not all predators are human. Not all threats are visible. There are entities, systems, and intelligences operating within and around human civilization that feed on expansion. They are attracted to growth the way parasites are attracted to healthy hosts, the way predators are attracted to movement, the way sharks are attracted to blood in the water. They do not create. They extract. They do not build. They consume. And they are extraordinarily skilled at identifying targets. These are not metaphorical entities. These are actual non-physical intelligences that exist in frequencies adjacent to physical reality. Some traditions call them archons. Some call them demons. Some call them thought forms, or egregores, or energy parasites. The name does not matter. What matters is that they exist. They are intelligent, and they have been feeding on human consciousness for as long as humans have existed on this planet. Public wealth acts as a beacon. When you announce your abundance, you light up on their radar. You become a feeding source. These entities operate through human proxies, through sudden crises, through inexplicable losses, through relationships that drain you, through business deals that collapse, through health issues that arise out of nowhere and cost you everything you just gained. They do not attack you directly. They do not need to. They simply position themselves in your energy field and begin to siphon. Slowly at first, so you do not notice. A small loss here, a minor setback there, a relationship that turns toxic, an investment that fails, a health problem that emerges, an accident, a lawsuit, a betrayal. One after another, small wounds that bleed you slowly until you are so depleted that the wealth evaporates and you are left wondering what happened. What happened is that you announced yourself. You sent out a signal, and the signal was received by entities whose entire existence depends on finding and draining sources of accumulated energy. Wealth is not just currency. Wealth is condensed life force. It is accumulated time, attention, effort, creativity, and vitality converted into material form. And when you accumulate it quickly, when you rise from poverty to abundance in a short time, you are essentially announcing that you have concentrated life force available for extraction. These entities do not care about your mission. They do not care about your intentions. They do not care that you planned to use the wealth for good. They only care that you have it, and that you announced it, and that you are now a viable target. And once you are targeted, the extraction begins. Not through obvious supernatural attacks. Those would be too easy to identify and counter, but through the slow, systematic degradation of everything around you. Relationships fall apart. Health declines. Opportunities vanish. Accidents increase. Legal problems appear. Financial losses mount. And through it all, you feel a heaviness, a fatigue, a sense that something is draining you, but you cannot identify what. Concealment starves them. When you hold your wealth in silence, you do not emit the signal. You do not register as a viable target. These entities move past you, searching for louder, brighter, more visible sources. They feed on those who celebrate, who announce, who display, because those individuals are offering themselves up without realizing it. Think of it this way. You are walking through a jungle at night. There are predators in the jungle. If you light a torch and shout, you will be found. If you move quietly in darkness, you will pass through undetected. Your wealth is the torch. Your announcement is the shout. And the predators are always listening, always watching, always searching for the next target. This war is fought through discretion, not through aggression, not through confrontation, but through the simple, disciplined act of refusing to reveal your position. You win by not being seen. You succeed by not being targeted. You thrive by moving through the shadow economies as a ghost, accumulating, building, fortifying, while those around you who could not remain silent are picked apart one by one, wondering why their luck ran out, why their wealth evaporated, why everything they touched after their announcement turned to dust. They do not know what you know. They were not given this briefing. They were not warned about the shadow economies. They believed wealth was just money, that success was just achievement, that abundance was just a reward for hard work. They did not understand that there are entire dimensions of reality operating parallel to physical existence, populated by intelligences that view human consciousness as a resource to be harvested. But you are being told, and now you have a choice. Continue operating as if physical reality is the only reality, as if human predators are the only threat, as if visibility is safe, because you do not understand what is watching. Or acknowledge that reality is far more complex than you were taught, that there are forces beyond human comprehension, monitoring flows of energy and resources, and that silence is not paranoia, but survival protocol for those operating at frequencies that attract attention from entities most people do not even know exist. The Pleiadians understand these shadow economies intimately. They have observed them across countless planetary systems. They know how they operate. They know how they identify targets. They know how they extract resources. And they encoded protection protocols into Starseed mission parameters specifically to counter these threats. Silence is one of those protocols, not the only one, but one of the most effective. Because if the entities cannot detect you, they cannot drain you. And if they cannot drain you, your wealth remains intact, your mission remains funded, and your impact remains possible. This is not superstition. This is operational intelligence from civilizations that have been navigating multidimensional reality for millions of years. And if you dismiss it as fantasy, if you ignore it as paranoia, if you announce your wealth anyway because you do not believe in entities you cannot see, you will learn the hard way that belief is not required for something to affect you. Gravity does not care if you believe in it. Parasites do not care if you acknowledge them. And shadow economy entities do not care if you think they are real. They will drain you regardless. The only question is whether you protect yourself or not. The reversal of old survival programming. Your nervous system is wired for poverty, not because you are broken, but because poverty was your training ground. For years, perhaps for decades, perhaps for entire lifetimes, stacked one after another in the archives of your soul's memory, you survived by being visible in your need. You had to ask for help. You had to signal your struggle. You had to make your lack known so that others might offer you a crumb, a chance, a moment of mercy. Visibility was your survival strategy when you had nothing. When you were hungry, you had to let people know so they might feed you. When you were homeless, you had to display your situation so someone might offer shelter. When you were unemployed, you had to announce your availability so someone might hire you. Every survival mechanism you developed in poverty required visibility, required announcement, required the willingness to be seen in your weakness, in your need, in your vulnerability. And your nervous system learned. It adapted. It encoded visibility as safety. It programmed announcement as survival. It wired your entire threat response system around the belief that being seen equals being helped, and being helped equals staying alive. This programming runs deep, deeper than conscious thought, deeper than rational decision-making. It operates at the level of automatic response, of instinctual reaction, of cellular memory. But now, everything has reversed. Abundance requires the opposite programming. Abundance requires invisibility for safety. And your nervous system, still running the old code, still operating on the assumption that visibility equals survival, is resisting this inversion with every tool at its disposal. It is screaming at you to announce, to share, to celebrate, to make your success known, because that is what it believes will keep you safe, will keep the resources flowing, will keep you connected to the tribe. But it is wrong. Your nervous system has not yet updated its threat assessment algorithms. It does not yet understand that what kept you alive in poverty will kill you in wealth, that the strategies that saved you when you had nothing will destroy you now that you have something. That visibility, which was once your lifeline, is now your greatest vulnerability. This is not your fault. This is not a character flaw. This is not something you need to feel shame about. This is biological. This is neurological. This is the natural result of surviving in an environment where scarcity was the baseline, and any small amount of help could mean the difference between life and death. Your body learned to signal, to broadcast need, to make yourself visible so that resources might flow toward you. And now, even though the environment has changed, even though the rules have reversed, your body is still running the old program. Mastery comes when silence feels natural, when the urge to announce your abundance fades, not because you are suppressing it, not because you are white-knuckling your way through the discomfort, not because you are forcing yourself to stay quiet through sheer willpower, but because you have genuinely rewired your internal programming to understand that discretion is the new survival mechanism. When you can hold wealth without the compulsion to prove it, to display it, to validate it through external acknowledgement, you have crossed the threshold. You are no longer operating from scarcity consciousness. You are operating from sovereign consciousness. This is neurological recoding. It is not instant. It is not comfortable. It is not a matter of deciding once and being done. It is a process, a gradual reprogramming that happens through repeated exposure to the new paradigm, through conscious override of automatic responses, through the slow, patient work of teaching your body that the rules have changed. Your body will fight you. Every time you receive money and stay silent, every time abundance flows and you do not announce it, every time you succeed and do not display it, your nervous system will panic. It will send distress signals. It will flood you with anxiety. It will generate thoughts like, if I don't tell people, they won't know. If they don't know, they might stop supporting me. If they stop supporting me, I'll lose everything. I need to show them. I need to prove it. I need to make sure everyone knows so that more opportunities come. These thoughts feel real. They feel urgent. They feel like wisdom. But they are not. They are echoes of an outdated survival program trying to keep you safe using strategies that no longer apply. Your nervous system does not understand that you have exited the scarcity paradigm. It is still treating your current reality as if you are one missed meal away from starvation, one lost connection away from homelessness, one moment of invisibility away from being forgotten and left to die. But you are not. You are wealthy now. You have resources now. You have options now. And in this new reality, visibility is not safety. Visibility is risk. Announcement is not connection. Announcement is exposure. Display is not opportunity. Display is vulnerability. Everything has reversed. And until your nervous system understands this, until the recoding is complete, you will be at war with yourself. One part of you knowing intellectually that silence protects you, while another part screams emotionally that silence will destroy you. The way through this is not suppression. Suppression only strengthens the old program by confirming its fear that something is wrong. The way through is conscious reprogramming. Every time the urge to announce arises, pause, breathe, Acknowledge the fear. Thank your nervous system for trying to protect you using the only strategies it knows. And then consciously, deliberately, choose the new strategy. Choose silence. Choose discretion. Choose invisibility. And then observe what happens. You will notice that nothing collapses. No one forgets you. No opportunities vanish. Your wealth does not evaporate because you did not post about it. Your success does not disappear because you did not tell your family. Your mission does not fail because you did not display your abundance. In fact, the opposite happens. Things stabilize, things strengthen, things expand, because you are no longer leaking energy through announcement. You are no longer inviting interference through display. You are no longer activating extraction protocols through visibility. And over time, through repeated experiences of choosing silence and observing positive outcomes, your nervous system begins to learn the new pattern. It begins to encode silence as safety. It begins to recognize discretion as strength. It begins to understand that invisibility in wealth serves the same function that visibility in poverty once served. It keeps you alive. It keeps you safe. It keeps you operational. This recoding is the final initiation before you are granted access to wealth that does not evaporate, to success that does not collapse, to power that does not corrupt. Because once your nervous system has fully integrated the new program, once silence feels as natural as breathing, once you can hold abundance without any internal pressure to announce it, you have proven that you are no longer a liability. You are no longer at risk of compromising the mission through impulsive revelation. You are no longer vulnerable to the emotional manipulation that would pressure you into disclosure. You have become trustworthy. Not morally trustworthy, that was never in question, but operationally trustworthy. Trustworthy at the level of automatic response. Trustworthy in moments of stress, of temptation, of pressure. Trustworthy enough to be given more, because you have proven you will not squander it on validation, will not compromise it through announcement, will not lose it through visibility. And that is when the real wealth flows. That is when the real power is granted. That is when the real mission begins. Not when you first accumulate resources, but when you prove you can hold them in silence. When you demonstrate that your survival no longer depends on being seen. When you show, through sustained discipline and neurological transformation, that you have evolved beyond the poverty programming that keeps most of humanity trapped in cycles of accumulation and loss. This is the work, Starseed of Gaia. This is the initiation. This is the test. Rewire your nervous system. Reprogram your survival instincts. Teach your body that silence is safety, that discretion is strength, that invisibility is power. And when that lesson is fully integrated, when the old program has been completely overwritten, you will find yourself operating at a level of wealth, influence, and impact that would have been impossible as long as you remained wired for poverty consciousness. The Pleiadians are patient. They understand that this transformation takes time. They do not expect you to master it overnight, but they are watching, and they are measuring, and they are deciding, based on how you handle this stage, whether you are ready for what comes next, whether you can be trusted with more, whether you have evolved enough to carry the weight of true planetary-level wealth without collapsing under the pressure to announce it. Prove that you can, and everything changes. The inheritance. You were never meant to share. What you hold is not entirely yours. This is the part that most newly wealthy individuals do not comprehend until it is too late, until they have already made the mistakes that cannot be undone, until they have already disclosed what should have remained hidden and watched as everything they accumulated dissolved through mechanisms they never saw coming. The resources flowing to you carry codes, frequencies, and permissions that were earned not only by you in this lifetime, but by your ancestors, by your soul lineage, by the countless incarnations and interdimensional agreements that positioned you to be the one standing here now, in this body, in this timeline, receiving what others in your bloodline could not. This wealth is an inheritance, but not in the conventional sense. It is not something that was passed down through legal documents or family estates. It is a transfer of cleared karma, of resolved contracts, of debts repaid across dimensions. Your great-great-grandmother, who died in poverty, cleared something. She endured something. She sacrificed something. She held frequency through conditions that would have broken most people. And in doing so, she cleared a karmic debt that had been accumulating for generations. But she did not live to see the reward. The reward was transferred forward, held in escrow across timelines, waiting for the incarnation that would be ready to receive it. Your soul's iteration 3 lifetimes ago in another land cleared something, faced a choice between integrity and survival, and chose integrity even though it cost everything. Died in obscurity, died in poverty, died without recognition. But the choice was recorded, the frequency was measured, and the karmic credit was banked, waiting for the future incarnation that could hold it without corruption. The Pleiadian aspect of your being negotiated something on your behalf before you were born. Agreements were made, contracts were signed, permissions were granted, resources were allocated. All of this happened in dimensional frequencies you do not consciously remember, but that govern your life at every moment. You were positioned, before birth, to be the recipient of an inheritance that spans lifetimes, that carries the cleared karma of dozens of incarnations, that represents the culmination of centuries of work, done by aspects of yourself you will never consciously know. And all of that clearance, all of that negotiation, all of that accumulated karmic credit converged into this moment, into this body, into this bank account. But it is not for everyone. It carries ancestral clearance codes embedded within it. This is not abstract metaphor. This is literal energetic reality. The wealth you hold vibrates at a specific frequency. That frequency is determined by the lineage that cleared it, by the soul path that earned it, by the mission parameters that authorized it. Only those who hold the same frequency signature, the same soul lineage, the same mission parameters, can interface with this wealth without distorting it. When you share it with those who are not authorized, when you disclose it to those who do not carry the clearance, the frequency scrambles. The wealth begins to malfunction. It no longer flows correctly. It no longer serves the purpose it was designed for. Disclosure dilutes the signal. Every person you tell becomes a node in a network that was never meant to have access. They do not carry the codes. They cannot hold the frequency. And so, unconsciously, they begin to interfere. Not maliciously, but simply by existing in proximity to something they were not cleared to touch. Their doubt, their envy, their confusion, their projections, all of it begins to distort the field around your wealth, and the wealth itself begins to behave erratically. Investments fail in ways that make no logical sense. Money disappears through 1,000 small leaks you cannot identify. Opportunities that should have succeeded collapse at the last moment. Relationships that should have been beneficial turn toxic. Health issues emerge. legal problems appear, accidents happen, and through it all, you cannot understand why. You did not mismanage the money. You made sound decisions. You followed guidance. But everything is falling apart anyway. What happened is that you disclosed the inheritance to those who were not authorized to know, and their presence in your energetic field, their awareness of your wealth, their thoughts and emotions and projections about it, all of that created interference patterns that disrupted the frequency alignment necessary for the wealth to function correctly. This is not superstition. This is quantum mechanics applied to consciousness and resources. Everything is frequency. Everything is vibration. And when frequencies that are not compatible attempt to interface, the result is distortion, malfunction, and eventual collapse. Only designated recipients can interface with it. If your wealth is meant to flow to a specific project, a specific person, a specific cause, it will find its way there without you needing to announce it. The universe does not require your PR team. It requires your obedience, your trust, your willingness to move in silence and allow the intelligence embedded within the wealth itself to guide its own distribution. The wealth you hold knows where it needs to go. It carries instructions, not written instructions, energetic instructions. And if you stay quiet, if you hold the frequency, if you remain in alignment with the source that granted the wealth in the first place, those instructions will activate. You will receive intuitive prompts. You will have dreams. You will encounter people who need exactly what you have at exactly the right moment. And you will know, without question, that this is where the wealth is meant to flow. But if you announce it, if you tell everyone, if you make it public knowledge, those clean, intuitive channels get flooded with interference. Suddenly, everyone has a cause. Everyone has a need. Everyone has a project that they believe deserves your support. And you can no longer hear the genuine guidance because it is drowned out by the noise of human expectation, manipulation, and need. Not everyone is authorized to know what you carry. And that is not cruelty. That is not elitism. That is not you being secretive or withholding or suspicious. That is precision. That is respect for the sacred nature of the inheritance you received. That is understanding that what you hold was earned through suffering you did not personally experience, through sacrifices you did not personally make, through lifetimes of work done by aspects of yourself and your lineage that you will never fully comprehend. To honor that inheritance, to respect the enormity of what was given to you, you must protect it. You must hold it sacred. You must treat it as the classified, mission-critical resource it actually is. And that means telling no one, not your family, not your friends, not your community. No one who does not carry the clearance codes, who does not hold the frequency, who is not designated at the soul level to interface with what you carry. This is not isolation. This is not paranoia. This is sacred stewardship. This is what it means to be entrusted with resources that transcend personal ownership, that represent the culmination of lifetimes of work, that carry the hopes and efforts of ancestors who died without seeing the reward they were creating for you. You owe them your silence. You owe them your discretion. You owe them the discipline to protect what they could not, to hold what they cleared, to honor their sacrifice by not squandering it on the ego's need for validation and display. And if you do this, if you hold the inheritance in sacred silence, if you allow it to flow according to its embedded guidance rather than your personal desires or social pressures, you will witness miracles. You will see money move in ways that defy logic. You will watch as resources find their way to exactly where they are needed at exactly the right moment. You will become a living conduit through which the universe corrects imbalances, heals wounds, and shifts timelines toward outcomes that serve the highest good. But only if you stay silent, only if you protect the codes, only if you honor the inheritance by refusing to dilute it through unauthorized disclosure. This is your responsibility, this is your test, and this is your opportunity to prove that you understand the sacred nature of what you have been given. The silent rich as planetary stabilizers. There is a class of wealth holders on this planet that you will never hear about. They do not give interviews. They do not appear on television. They do not write memoirs or build monuments to themselves. They do not have Wikipedia pages. They are not on Forbes lists. Their names do not trend. Their faces are not recognizable. And yet, they hold more wealth, more influence, more strategic power than most of the billionaires whose names you know, whose faces you recognize, whose every move is documented and analyzed by media outlets around the world. These are Gaia's wealth holders. They were selected not for their ambition, but for their frequency. They are stabilizers. They exist in specific geographic locations, specific energetic nodes, holding resources that prevent collapse. Their wealth is not decorative. It is not status. It is not luxury. It is functional. It is deployed in silence to stop wars before they start, to fund technologies that will never be patented, to support individuals whose work will never be publicized, to move resources into communities that centralized systems have abandoned, to stabilize economies that are on the verge of implosion, to prevent famines, to avert environmental disasters, to shift political outcomes away from catastrophic timelines. They live ordinary lives by design. They drive normal cars. They live in modest homes. They wear unremarkable clothing. They shop at regular stores. They do not attend galas. They do not host charity events. They do not seek recognition or awards or public acknowledgement of their impact, because they understand something that most people never learn. Real power is invisible. Real impact is unmeasurable by conventional metrics. Real wealth operates in the shadows, moving silently through systems that would collapse without it, but that never acknowledge its presence. They are invisible by necessity. Their impact is measured not in applause, not in recognition, not in legacy, but in prevented collapses, in disasters that did not happen, in wars that were averted, in timelines that did not manifest, in suffering that was prevented before it ever reached the threshold of visibility. They fund the researchers whose discoveries never make headlines, but that prevent pandemics. They support the activists whose names you will never know, but who stop legislation that would have enslaved millions. They move money to villages that are about to collapse into violence, providing just enough resources at just the right moment to shift the trajectory toward peace. They are not saviors. They are not heroes. They do not see themselves that way and would reject those labels if offered. They are simply operatives, mission specialists, frequency holders who understood what they were being asked to do and accepted the assignment, knowing that they would never receive credit, never be thanked, never be recognized for the work they are doing. And they are completely at peace with that, because they are not doing this for recognition. They are doing this because they can see the architecture of collapse that most people cannot perceive, and they have been positioned with the resources necessary to reinforce that architecture before it fails. You were selected to hold without display, not because you are humble, though humility may be a byproduct, but because your mission requires it. You are not here to be famous. You are not here to be celebrated. You are not here to prove to anyone that you made it. You are here to stabilize a collapsing system from within, by holding resources in silence and deploying them with precision, according to guidance that comes not from your ego, not from your personal desires, but from the intelligence of Gaia herself, from the councils that oversee planetary transition, from the Pleiadians who have been managing this operation for longer than human history records. The planet is in crisis. The systems that have governed human civilization for centuries are failing. Financial systems, political systems, environmental systems, social systems, all of them are reaching critical failure points simultaneously, and the collapse, if left unmanaged, would result in suffering on a scale that most people cannot even imagine. Mass starvation, resource wars, ecological catastrophe, the complete breakdown of social order. Billions of people facing conditions that would make the worst moments of recorded history look gentle by comparison. But the collapse is being managed, it is being slowed, it is being guided, not by governments, not by international institutions, not by the visible structures of power that most people believe are in control, but by a network of invisible wealth holders who are positioned at strategic nodes across the planet, holding frequency, moving resources, making quiet interventions that shift probabilities away from catastrophic outcomes and toward survivable transitions. These wealth holders do not know each other. They do not coordinate. They do not meet in secret. They simply operate according to guidance, moving when prompted, holding when instructed, deploying resources when directed by sources they cannot always name, but that they have learned to trust. And collectively, without conscious coordination, they form a distributed intelligence network that is managing the planetary transition from third-dimensional control systems to fourth-dimensional consciousness structures. You are being invited into this network, not officially. There are no membership cards, no secret handshakes, no initiation ceremonies. You are simply being told that this network exists, that it has been operating for longer than you realize, and that you are being positioned to become part of it if you can pass the tests. And the first test, the most fundamental test, is this: can you hold wealth without announcing it? Can you accumulate power without displaying it? Can you become successful without needing recognition? If yes, you are ready. If no, you are not yet prepared for what comes next. The silent rich do not think of themselves as special. They do not believe they are better than others. They do not see their wealth as evidence of superiority or divine favor. They see it as equipment, as tools, as resources allocated for a specific purpose that requires discretion to fulfill. They understand that they were selected not because they are more worthy, but because they demonstrated, through lifetimes of testing, that they could hold power without corrupting, wealth without hoarding, influence without exploiting. And now they live quietly. They move through the world unnoticed. They make decisions that affect millions without those millions ever knowing who made the decision or why. They prevent wars that would have killed hundreds of thousands. They fund technologies that will save billions, but that will be attributed to others. They support movements that will reshape civilization, but that will never acknowledge where the resources came from. And they are completely content with this invisibility because they know something that most people never learn. Legacy is irrelevant. Recognition is meaningless. And the only thing that matters is whether the mission succeeds. Tell no one. This is how the mission survives. The moment you speak, you exit the stabilizer class and enter the celebrity class. And the celebrity class is not protected. They are visible, which means they are vulnerable. They are monitored, which means they are controlled. They are famous, which means they are used. Their wealth is constantly under attack. Their decisions are constantly scrutinized. Their every move is analyzed, criticized, and manipulated by forces that seek to control them or extract from them or destroy them if they cannot be controlled. But the silent rich are protected, not by security teams, not by legal structures, not by physical barriers, but by invisibility itself. Because if no one knows what you have, no one can target you. If no one knows where your resources are deployed, no one can interfere. If no one knows who you are supporting, no one can sabotage the work. You remain free to operate according to guidance, moving resources where they are needed most, without the constant interference of human expectation, governmental regulation, or parasitic extraction. You were not chosen for fame. You were chosen for this, for silence, for impact without witness, for power without proof, for the lonely, unglamorous, unrecognized work of holding frequency and moving resources in a collapsing world that will never thank you, never acknowledge you, never even know you existed. And if you can accept that, if you can embrace that level of anonymity, if you can find peace in knowing that your impact will never be measured by external metrics, but only by the timelines that did not manifest, the suffering that was prevented, the collapses that were averted, then you are ready to join the network of planetary stabilizers who have been doing this work in silence for generations. This is not a metaphor. This is not spiritual fantasy. This is operational reality. There are Starseeds of Gaia operating right now in cities and towns across this planet, holding wealth in silence, deploying resources according to guidance, stabilizing systems that are on the verge of failure, preventing catastrophes that would have devastated millions. And they are invisible, by choice, by design, by necessity, because visibility would compromise the mission. And the mission is too important to compromise for the ego's need to be seen. You are being asked to join them, not through application, not through invitation, but through choice. The choice to remain silent, the choice to hold your wealth in secrecy, the choice to operate as a ghost, moving through human systems with resources that could change everything, but that no one knows you have. That is the choice. That is the test. And the outcome of that choice will determine not only your personal trajectory, but the trajectory of all those whose lives are connected to the resources you now carry and the mission you were sent here to fulfill. The silent rich are not legends. They are real. They are operating right now, and they are watching to see if you will join them, or if you will announce yourself into the celebrity class and lose everything they could have helped you build. The choice, Starseed of Gaia, is entirely yours, but understand the stakes, understand the consequences, and choose with full awareness of what you are choosing between. Starseed of Gaia, you now carry a secret that most will never understand. You have been briefed on a reality that operates beneath the surface of ordinary human experience, in frequencies that most people never perceive, through structures that most people never acknowledge. The wealth that is flowing toward you, or that has already arrived, is not a coincidence. It is not luck. It is not random chance, or good fortune, or the result of hard work alone. It is a deployment. You are not lucky. You are selected. And with that selection comes a responsibility that transcends personal comfort, social validation, or the human need to be seen. You are being asked to operate as the ancients did, as the true power holders have always done, in silence, in shadow, in the unshakable certainty that your worth is not determined by who knows about it. The war for this planet's future is not fought on battlefields. It is not waged through political movements or social revolutions or technological breakthroughs that make headlines. It is fought in the quiet choices of those who hold resources, in the discipline of those who refuse to announce their power, in the wisdom of those who understand that visibility is not victory, but vulnerability. You are now one of them. Whether you fully grasp it yet or not, whether you fully accept it or not, you have been positioned within a network that operates outside the awareness of conventional systems. The Pleiadians are watching. Gaia is watching. The councils that oversee planetary transition are watching. And the forces that would drain, distort, or destroy what you carry are also watching. All of them are observing the same thing. What will you do with the wealth you have been given? The question is no longer whether you will become wealthy. The question is whether you will protect that wealth with the silence it requires, whether you will honor the inheritance you carry by refusing to disclose it to those who were never meant to know, whether you will pass the final test and prove that you are mature enough, disciplined enough, sovereign enough to hold power without witness, whether you can sit with abundance, surrounded by people who have nothing, and feel no compulsion whatsoever to announce what you have, whether you can succeed wildly and remain invisible, whether you can accumulate power and use it without ever needing credit for what you accomplish. This is the level of mastery required for what comes next. This is the initiation you must pass to access the deeper resources, the larger mission, the planetary scale impact that you were always meant to have. And it begins here. It begins now. It begins with the choice to remain silent when every fiber of your human conditioning screams at you to announce, to prove, to display. The mission continues. The briefing is complete, but the operation is just beginning. What you do next will determine not only your trajectory, but the trajectories of all those whose lives are connected to the resources you now carry. Will you deploy those resources according to guidance, or will you squander them on validation? Will you operate as a stabilizer, or will you collapse into celebrity? Will you remain invisible and effective, or will you become visible and vulnerable? Every moment you hold your wealth in silence, you are passing the test. Every moment you resist the urge to announce, you are strengthening your frequency. Every moment you move resources without fanfare, you are proving that you understand what you were sent here to do. And every moment you do this, you are being observed, measured, evaluated by forces that will determine whether you are ready for more. Tell no one. This is not the end. This is not the conclusion. This is the beginning of what you were always meant to become. The beginning of your true work as Starseed of Gaia. The beginning of your role as planetary stabilizer operating in the shadows while the world collapses around you, holding frequency, moving resources, preventing catastrophes that no one will ever know were about to happen. This is your calling. This is your assignment. This is why you are here. Not to be rich, not to be famous, not to be recognized, but to hold power in silence and deploy it with precision according to guidance that comes from sources most humans do not believe exist. And if you can do this, if you can embrace this level of invisibility, if you can find peace in knowing that your greatest achievements will never be acknowledged, then you will become one of the most powerful forces operating on this planet, moving through human systems like a ghost, shifting timelines, preventing collapses, stabilizing the transition, and ensuring that when the old world finally finishes dying, there is something beautiful waiting to be born in its place. The choice is yours. The mission is active. And the silence is everything.